Hello Digimon fans and welcome to my channel. So with BT2 officially launching today, well, I know it hasn't reached Malaysia yet, but yes, it officially launches today globally. Well, new cards are brought into the meta and we would probably see a lot of cards from the new expansion because Ultimate Power, their power are pretty ultimate. Yeah, okay, that was bad. Well, never mind. So, today's video, we will look at the top decks of the meta which has just passed. And what is it? It will be Omegamon decks. Yeah! So, yes, in the BT1 meta, Omegamon decks have ruled for, I think, the last few weeks. Both Omegamon Red and Omegamon Blue. But interestingly, Omegamon Blue has come up tops very recently, especially in a very recent tournament in Japan. It was really big. I think I'm not quite sure exactly about how many players, but some people tell me 64, some actually said 58, and a very reliable source gave me the number of 48. Well, either way, it should be the biggest tournament held to date. So, despite the poor single sales in Malaysia, I've seen a lot of people actually try to sell Omegamon, but no one is buying. Well, Omegamon decks have taken off in Malaysia as well. Yes, in our very own country. And guess how do I know that? Because there were 3 tournaments in Malaysia last weekend. Yes, last Saturday. One in the north, one in the south, and one in the central. And every champion used an Omegamon deck. Wow! And one Omegamon deck also came in second. Yes, that was in Selangor. So, since I play blue, I actually built myself an Omegamon Blue deck. And yeah, let's look at how I built that deck as well as analyze the 2 Omega Blue decks which had podium finishes last weekend.
So let's look at the first deck. This deck won champion in a local tournament in Penang. At a first glance, this deck incorporates BT1 Metal Garurumon with their Meta Omega deck. Basically, it has all the core cards which makes Omega deck scary. Low cost level 3s and also vanillas like Gorimon, Manzemon, Placiamon to let you hit level 6 from the Digitama with just 5 memory. It also has BT1 Gabumon and BT1 Garurumon to go with BT1 Metal Garurumon. Basically the essence of my original deck. I would say that this deck is pretty well built. However, I feel that there are some parts of this deck which can be improved on. Minimal evolution based removal mechanic technically makes Wanyamon harder to trigger, and personally speaking, I would rather just go with 4 Upamon for consistency because like drawing 1 Monumon in the middle kinda breaks the rhythm. Also, at the first glance, I find Promo Garurumon slightly redundant as well. Well, unless he often finds himself at situations where Metal Garurumon is the end of the line, then yeah, he would be able to utilize Promo Garurumon's evolution-based effect. But even then, it cannot actually be used to its full potential because Metal Garurumon's attacking effect summons it out. So you only be able to use it for like what? Once? Twice? Another thing I would like to highlight is the use of Tamers. Tamers are not usually used in Omega decks, as Hammer Spark provides you with that memory boost, and low cost cards tend to let you set up with minimal memory. That said, it could either be a setup for evolution based removal, which goes well with Metal Garurumon, or it could be used to make up for the lack of memory gain alternatives. Because if you notice, he doesn't actually have Leomon in the deck, which when coupled with BT1 Gomamon can give you a +3 memory if it gets deleted. Personally, I would still prefer not to have Yamato in because it's a waste of 4 memory to cast, and we can also add things like Leomon in its place. In overall, I would say this is a pretty good deck. While Omegamon Blue is one of the best decks in the meta, apparently it can be defeated by a yellow-blue hybrid. Yeah, you know, the ones where you use Kaiser Nail to activate the summoning effects of Holy Angelmon. Apparently, if things go smoothly and you manage to recover a lot, you will manage to survive the Omegamon onslaught. So, in theory, bringing in BT1 Metal Garurumon and BT1 Garurumon could give you a boost to restand and attack one more time. So that help depletes your opponent's security. Now let's look at the build of this deck. This deck came in second in a tournament in Selangor, losing out to Omega Red. Similarly to the previous deck, it combines BT1 Metal Garurumon with Omegamon. I actually felt that this looked like an Omegamon deck since, Hammer Spark and Placiomon are in it, but further inspection seems to suggest otherwise. This deck is pretty memory heavy for an Omegamon deck. I mean, no low cost vanillas except for Placiomon, even in level 3s, and Hammer Spark isn't a playset. Well, I say this is similar to my previous deck, where Omegamon is not the focus of the deck, but just added in for some firepower in security, and maybe to evolve when needed. One thing I don't like is the lineup of rookies, because he'd be forced to waste memory when he runs out of Digitama, or if he doesn't have a Digitama to evolve that turn. Plus, the inclusion of Sunomon seems kinda redundant, as Sunomon is probably the worst Digitama in blue. Well, I mean, not to say that it's bad, it's okay, I guess. But let's just say Upamon and Wanyamon are much better. And again, with minimal evolution based removal mechanics, I would go with just 4 Upamon. I'm not sure if most players got the memo, but it's totally fine to just play a playset of Digitama if you don't have good ones to fill up the remaining slot. Why do people keep running 5 Digitamas when one of them is redundant? It'll just break your consistency, ruin your rhythm. But he did a pretty good move by adding Leomon into the deck, so that would give him some memory boost to offset the memory needed to set up his deck. And another good thing was he added Zudomon. Zudomon is a quick escape from bricks, lets you draw 2 cards when you cast it. While I never really needed it in my previous deck, but it is actually a good card for decks that don't play Rush. And overall, I would say that this is a decent deck, but I wouldn't actually consider it an Omegamon Blue. Now, this is my Omega Blue deck. Basically, the key here is low memory cost. The playset of starter Gomamon and Elecmon allows me the flexibility to evolve for free or summon at a low cost. Armademon is a great card to summon at a low cost. Yeah, I mean, you seen how it changed my last deck? Wow, Gomamon here can be used to digivolve from Digitama guards, and it gives me that +1 memory boost. To add to that, Gorimon, Manzemon, Placiomon, these 3 cards combine for me to reach Omegamon in the fastest possible way. I would actually add more Placiomon, but since I only bought one starter deck, I will have to make do with just that. So other than maximizing my memory usage, these cards mean I can digivolve more frequently, so my draws in the game will increase. As for the memory gaining department, we have the compulsory Hammer Spark playset. And Leomon here also gives me extra memory, while Garurumon gives me a temporary memory boost, which comes pretty handy at times, especially when I need to digivolve into Saber Leomon to remove my opponent's evolution base. Saber Leomon might not be that commonly used in decks, but I feel it goes pretty well with Omegamon's attacking effect. And because I can set up so quickly, it's actually not hard to rinse and repeat with Saberleomon, so you keep removing your opponent's evolution base. And Zudomon, like I mentioned earlier, is to get myself out of bricks, which actually rarely happens. Maybe just once or twice every 10 games, which is also the reason why I only added 2 and had 2 promo Wear Garurumon in place instead. Well, I just wanted to be a little greedy and add a bit of power since my deck hardly bricks anyway. It was a tough choice though, choosing between starter Wear Garurumon and promo Wear Garurumon. Well, because both worked pretty well actually. Well, the odd choice here is Veedramon Zero. Well, honestly, I didn't really know what to add. I mean, no tamer means no to the staple Veedramon SEC, and most level 4s didn't really have much of an impact to my deck. So yeah, putting Zero Maru to increase my draws is the best I could think of. Honestly, when BT2 drops, I would probably replace it with Seedramon. As for Digitama, I decided to go with 3 Upamon and 2 Wanyamon because I realized that Wanyamon can be used pretty often in this deck thanks to Saberleomon. Well, actually I could also use 4 Upamon, but consistently triggering Wanyamon's evolution based effect during playtesting convinced me that it would be good to have more than one. This deck also shuts out my previous Metal Garurumon deck because Saberleomon removes 4 cards from the bottom of your evolution base, which essentially is everything under Metal Garurumon. So yeah, it can totally foil the plans of a Metal Garurumon deck.
And yes, that is it. My Omegamon Blue deck. Well, seriously speaking, I didn't expect Omegamon to take off in the early meta. For me, it was something where, I just added 1 or 2 max into my deck. But looks like it is really good, and we actually need to run at least 3. Ooh, seriously, how did I end up from, a Metal Garurumon deck into an Omegamon deck? Wow. Well, regardless, Omegamon might still have its uses in the BT2 meta, especially against Diaboromon and its tokens. But will it be dominating? Or will the newer cards come out tops? That is something we have to find out in the future. So that's all from me today. Remember to like and subscribe, and thank you for watching, everyone.